Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for coming to the Robot Revolution and Industrial IoT International Symposium 2025. We are joined by guests from Japan, US, and Germany. We are glad to see a large turnout today. I'm Tagawa from Robot Revolution and Industrial IoT Initiative. This is the 11th symposium that we are hosting, and I'd like to say a few words to begin the program. This symposium is hosted by RRI together with the Federal Ministry of Economy and Energy of Germany, as well as Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry of Japan. And we are also sponsored by these many sponsors on the screen. I'd like to thank all the sponsors for the support. In this symposium, we have been discussing with global leaders from the US, Japan, and Germany on industrial IoT as well as digitalization and transformation of manufacturing industry that is led by IoT and digitalization. We have been talking about the future vision. And currently, around the world, industrial structure has been disrupted due to the changes in the infrastructure as well as the data utilization. It's been accelerated. So the new industrial ecosystem is now emerging thanks to AI and data space implementation. So in this time's symposium, the 11th edition, we are going to talk about the data-driven manufacturing and collaboration and transformation. Under this theme, we are going to talk about how we can create new value based on the data collaboration in manufacturing industry, as well as how we can sustain the transformation of industry in the future. In the first session, we will talk about the enabler of the manufacturing transformation. Digital ecosystem will be talked about, and we will learn about the new trend and the latest trend on the Ouranos ecosystem of Japan as well as manufacturing X in Germany. In session 2 in the afternoon, the thought leaders from the US, Japan, and Germany will come together to talk about the social challenges, data-driven economy, as well as interaction with AI, and the sustainability of manufacturing industry. They will talk about the future direction of international collaboration. In session 3, Plattform Industrie 4.0 and RRI collaboration will be discussed. We are marking the 10th year of the collaboration, so we will review the outcomes so far, and then we will also talk about the collaboration agreement that was signed yesterday. During the break, Plattform Industrie 4.0 experts will be demonstrating XR glass, the Factory X experience. This digital factory initiative in Germany is something that you can experience today at the venue. Through the discussion today, I hope that Japan will learn more about how Japan can play a big role and make a contribution to the trend of industrial revolution and transformation around the world. And we also would like to talk about how we can collaborate among these many countries toward the new direction. At the end of the session, we are also planning to have a networking session. We will be serving some refreshments. I hope you will stick with us until the end so that you can interact with the panelists and other participants. With that, the Robot Revolution and Industrial IoT International Symposium 2025 now commence. Then before the presentations begin, I would like to ask the government officials from Germany and Japan. First, from the Japanese government, from Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry, Director of DX Policy Planning and Coordination for the Manufacturing Industry, Ms. Chizuru Suga will say a few words.
場をいただきたいと思います。それでは菅様よろしくお願いいたします。
Ms. Suga, please. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Suga from METI. So for the opening, I'd like to extend a few words for this symposium. I sincerely thank you all for participating in this Robot Revolution and Industrial IoT International Symposium 2025, co-hosted by BMWE, RRI, and METI are hosting together. Thank you very much. And I would also like to extend my deep appreciation to Deputy Director General Hess of BMWE, and for all participants, thank you very much. And I wish to express my renewed gratitude to the members of the RRI for their greatest efforts. This symposium marks its 11th this year. Cooperation between Germany and Japan in this field began in March 2016 with a joint declaration on cooperation in IoT Industry 4.0 between METI and Germany's minister. So it's reaching its 10th anniversary milestone this year. During this decade, the environment surrounding manufacturing has undergone significant changes, including the global spread of COVID-19, geopolitical instability caused by Russia's invasion of Ukraine, soaring prices of raw materials and energy, and intensifying challenges of climate change. In addition, IoT and rapid technological progress have greatly transformed the landscape of data utilization. In manufacturing, there's a growing need for business transformation through data-driven collaboration and sharing that transcends companies, industries, and national borders. The theme of this year's symposium is Future of Data-Driven Manufacturing, Collaboration and Transformation. METI is promoting the Ouranos ecosystem as a key national initiative to realize the FFT, fostering cross-industry data utilization and strengthening industrial competitiveness through public-private collaboration. So this is a very important policy for us. Through this initiative, we are developing shared framework that enable cooperation across diverse data, services, and business collaborations essential to economic activities. We're creating and expanding use cases while enhancing international interoperability for cross-domain data and system connectivity. On October the 15th at CTEC, we announced that a new framework called Open Data Spaces will serve as the common technical standard for Japan's data space initiatives, ODS. This will be jointly advanced by 4 organizations: the IPA and the DSA, the Data Society Alliance, and RRI, and the Interfaculty Initiative in Information Studies at the University of Tokyo. Japan is solidifying our efforts as well. This will enable not only METI's Ouranos ecosystem initiatives, but also other major data space efforts in Japan to be advanced jointly by industry, government, and academia under a shared standard. So, during today's session day, we are joined by experts from Japan and abroad to discuss initiatives toward building digital ecosystems for manufacturing in both Germany and Japan. So, through such discussions, I hope that we will clarify the directions for promoting manufacturing innovation through data utilization and collaboration, and that Germany-Japan cooperation will become even stronger in these years ahead. Thank you very much.
Suga課長、ありがとうございます。
Thank you, Ms. Suga. Now I'd like to call upon the Deputy Director General, Markus Hess, of Industrial Policy of Federal Ministry for Economic Affairs and Energy in Germany. So, Mr. Hess, please take the floor.
Dear Mrs. Suga, minasama, ohayo gozaimasu. Dear friends and colleagues for over a decade, Today we are celebrating the 10th anniversary of this German-Japanese collaboration. On a personal note, I was one of the founding members 10 years ago, so therefore I'm feeling particularly honored and pleased and privileged to be part of this successful collaboration over this long period of time. But let me add, I know a couple of faces in the room, but 10 years younger, so. I'm pleased to see so many long-standing colleagues and partially friends, because the cooperation we've established brought us together not only on technical terms, on standards, on exchange of technological questions, but also on a personal situation and note. So we grew closer, and I very much appreciate this. I want to outright thank METI for their support, for this cooperation, for the Robert Revolution initiative, and for being for this long time a reliable, trusted, and respected partner. My gratitude. Thank you. And altogether, we can be proud of what we have achieved so far. Bearing in mind the rapid changes in the world, the political and economic and geopolitical world, I think it's necessary to rethink our structures and adapt, where necessary, the priorities. Our German Chancellor Merz put it recently in a strategic perspective. He said, Germany will foster technological leadership in a digital sovereign way. That sounds familiar to Japanese ears, I would assume. The Platform Industrie 4.0 will reflect these priorities and the recent developments to be able to be as successful as we have been so far in the future. Therefore, from a purely technical point of view, new technological fields will come into play, such as the industrial AI, the next generation of robotics, supply chain resilience, sustainability in production and production processes, and circular economy as a major task for at least sustainability, if not environmentally reasons. All this against the backdrop of the latest export restrictions for rare earths we all together face, and which put into a new perspective former contractual relationships in a new world. So this is part of the rethinking process, where to put the priorities. Let me for a second focus on industrial AI. The utilization of artificial intelligence will change the manufacturing landscape dramatically. No news for no one in the room, but in each and every sector, in each and every company, in each and every process. So today, it has just started. And to my personal conviction, we have just seen the tip of the iceberg, to be honest. For industrial players, this is good news. It's not a question of in or out. It's a fundamental prerequisite to foster new innovation, to embark on new horizons, to take up the challenge of new competitors. But we're used to that. So this is a new chapter, not a new book. And even more, it is key to set the future competitiveness of our industries, and from the German perspective, especially for the small and medium-sized companies, where we have something to offer to the international market. On substance, the underlying concept of federated and distributed data ecosystems is the basis for industrial AI. We need to be able to combine and connect manufacturing facilities with latest AI solutions around the globe. So a new kind of network. So therefore we need a common holistic approach, the modularization and standardization, integration of digital infrastructures, open source approaches, and transparency to gain trust among the stakeholders. Every industry sector should be integrated, step by step, but be part of the entire ecosystem. All these strands of action must be internationally compatible, globally operational, to make sense for industry. The new German government will continuously support this development, as we did in the past. And today, RRI Symposium is the perfect round to discuss the new priorities, the new directions of our collaboration, and to understand the fundamental concepts developed over the recent years. I would like, as I've did in the past, to encourage you to take advantage of these opportunities and for the cooperation to ensure the global interoperability of various solutions and technologies. I wish you all a fruitful and successful symposium. Thank you for your attention. Let's get it started. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hess. Now we'd like to move on to session 1. The moderator for session 1 and the discussion will be served by Sugie-san, Mr. Sugie, CEO of Innovation Research Institute, LLC. Sugie-san, the floor is yours. Good morning, everyone. I will be serving as a moderator for session 1. I am Sugie. So session 1 is about the enabler of the manufacturing transformation digital ecosystem. 4 presenters from the public and private sectors of Japan and Germany will be making presentations. So Germany, Japan, public and private. This is a perfect combination of presenters who will be making presentations and having discussion. This is a wonderful opportunity, so I hope you will enjoy the presentations. After the presentations, we will have panel discussion for the rest of the morning. Before we begin the session, we have one request. Later on, we will have 3 15-minute presentations followed by panel discussion. And if the time allows, then we will take questions from the audience. If you have any questions to the presenters, you can go to the YouTube description section and open the link to the QA site. And please enter your 6-digit number, your name and affiliation, and your question there. And also, in the venue, if the time allows, you can raise your hand if you have a question, and you can participate in the discussion later. Without further ado, we'd like to begin the session. The first presenter is once again Mr. Hess.
The
title of the presentation is Status-quo in Germany. Mr. Hess, the floor is yours.
I will give you an overview in my presentation of what we're doing recently currently in Germany, the status quo. It will include an overview of the political priorities and showcases what has been achieved so far and what we understand under a holistic approach. Sorry, but the screen is not large enough to show more effectively each and every milestone we've been through, but I wanted to a little bit show off what we've done until today. Because the timeline is important for the achievements. If there is no timeline, there is no cooperation. When there is no cooperation, there is no result. And when there is no result, we can all go home and do different things. So, to my understanding, this timeline reflects a little bit what way lies behind us and in how far the Industry 4.0 framework, network, ecosystem has proven to be up to the challenge. Platform Industry 4.0, together with the international cooperation partners, was able to set up or to support multiple successful initiatives with an outstanding footprint at global scale. We were able, in the course of the years, to set up organizations like Labs Network Industry 4.0, the Standardization Council 4.0, Gaia-X, Industrial Digital Twin Association, International Manufacturing X, and stuff like that. Technological frameworks like the Asset Administration Shell, nobody outside this room understands. The OPC UA, Tractus X, and we have some lighthouse projects to present like Catena X, Manufacturing X, and Factory X, all part of the X family. Again, I would like to thank the Japan colleagues in the public administration, the government, and RRI for the valuable contributions over the last 10 years. So I think it's part of, we share the view that Industry 4.0 is a global concept, a global open concept, someone who can pick ideas from or join or develop or enhance. Because industrial value chains are global. Political priorities lay on resilience, sustainability, and finally, to gain competitiveness. Manufacturing X and the International Manufacturing X Council serve as a center of gravity for global collaboration. And important for the success is a strong community, a community of contributors from business, governments, and academia. Manufacturing X as the focal point is completely data-driven. The underlying concept of industrial data ecosystems highlights the tremendous potential of trustful and federated utilization of data. These ecosystems will strengthen the resilience and sustainability of the global supply chains. And even more, it is key to set the future competitiveness for the industry. But data only has value if we are able to enable it across sectors. Silos work for silos, but not for the entire industry. The value can increase exponentially if you use data together with your business partners, and that is important for future business models. We have put together work to be able to set building blocks to create data ecosystems. Those are based on the principles of influence, build, run, and scale. And as you can easily see, all are connected, intertwined. It's a fabric that is woven in the end to be the basis for economic success. For now, I will not go into more details. Our experts will give a deep dive in the later presentations. But let me stress the lower left side. If it's not working internationally, it's not tapping the full potential. And that is over and over my core point. Together, we are better. This is purely German, purely technical, but in the end, it's what it's all about. It's about sectors. It's not about a one-size-fits-all. But if you look at the lower level, there are connecting levels of, let's say, foundational standards. And that is what we at core understand under holistic approach. We need to have a holistic approach to be able to set common rules and procedures and the common technological base layer. Later on, a little bit upper in the graph, the transfer and scaling are essential part and reflect the broad approach of the developed solutions. Important is the support for the adoption of the industrial sectors concerned. So this is the advertising block. I show you a kind of overview what we, from the governmental side, deem to be worth to be supported. So we support a lot of partners in every consortium. The overall project investment is around 300 million euros, which would stand for roughly 53 billion yen. The public funding counts for approximately the half, 150 million euros, which is roughly 25 billion yen. And it's a major part of our daily work to keep all these up and running and to interact so that it's not money lost on something vertical, but investing in an ecosystem. And this is an overview of the cross-sectoral use cases those projects are currently working on. We are working on use cases on the shop floor level and among partners in the value chain. These use cases are important to demonstrate the benefits of data space technologies, but we need interoperability. So the interoperable approach is what makes this thing so unique. Interoperability between the different sectors. These end-to-end processes will support the single companies to higher the quality, traceability and availability for the IT solutions. And ultimately, to reduce costs and to improve the integration and easy-to-use aspects of highly innovative IT solutions. No status quo without an outlook. A brief outlook of the priorities of the projects for the next years. In 2026, we will focus on the operationalization of data ecosystems to be able to scale it into more sectors in the upcoming years. And this should serve as a proof that we go on our path. We are fans of predictability, both in technological and also political ways. A last word on artificial intelligence. It will become an important enabler for data space technologies, with a crucial impact for all industrial stakeholders, but also from a competition perspective. Therefore, the utilization of data will be the foundation of future value creating in manufacturing. The cross-sector collaboration will be the most promising way forward. The infrastructure aspect, where data is stored, shared, and processed, will have a critical impact. And it's important to become digital sovereign or strategic independent from proprietary platform providers to ensure freedom of actions. What we will see is a strategic investment over the next coming years in Europe. The German government is convinced about the impact of data space for industries and will further support the development on the European level as well in international scale. So this should look familiar to some of you, and to those who are not familiar with it, it's an invitation to Hannover Fair next year. Come to Hannover Fair to showcase what we can do or what we can do together. And for any further details, you can directly reach out to us. I'm here almost all day. And I thank you very much for your attention, and I'm looking forward to the exchange. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hess. Next from METI, the Director for Digital Strategy and International Affairs, Commerce and Information Policy Bureau, Mr. Ikai Yuji, to talk about future prospects of the Ouranos ecosystem. My name is Ikai from METI. I would like to talk about the future prospects of the Ouranos ecosystem. The data integration and exchange promoted by Japan, what we are doing, and going forward, what we are going to do. First, this is the background. Data free flow with trust, DFFT. This is a concept a Japanese government initiated. Internationally, traditionally, we had exchanges and negotiations, and the U.S. said that data free flow for business activities was the stance, and in Europe, individual privacy information should be managed. That was the focus, and so they had different stances. So comparatively, in the international arena, this was a deadlock. However, we wanted to solve this deadlock. So in 2019, Japan, when we were the presidency of G20, Prime Minister Abe, the former Prime Minister Abe, those days, initiated this data free flow with trust. It's not only about free flow, but trust was added. This is an international concept that he started to initiate. And in his speech, former Prime Minister Abe said that new reality means that data runs everything. So data free flow with trust for the economy is the top priority. That's what he said. And this is appropriate right now as well. This is very relevant. 2023, we were the presidency of G7 as well this year, and we had the G7 Digital and Economic Ministers meeting, and we talked about data sharing platform, digital infrastructure, and international interoperability was agreed. And also the Minister of METI announced the concept and the initiative, and that was Ouranos ecosystem. So this is Ouranos ecosystem. To realize DFFT, this system promotes the interconnection of multiple systems to enable seamless data utilization across companies, industries, and borders. And this initiative aims to foster collaboration among data systems and businesses to enhance industrial competitiveness through public-private partnerships. So to foster this initiative, METI is focused on this. For example, development of specifications and standards for data sharing, and also data collection systems. And also we have consultations with the businesses to set up roles. So together we have discussions. And as for this Ouranos ecosystem, historically, we are based on concrete case studies. So here is the historical processes. First, the automobile industry was very much focused on this activity. So battery carbon footprint and supply chain resilience were the start of the initiatives in this industry. So they came up with a lot of different use cases about batteries and also auto parts and recycling to trace all the carbon footprint. On top of that, in a different industry, they have different approaches. For example, management of the chemical substances, and the other industries are getting interested as well. So going back to the first use case about automobile industry, battery, carbon footprint, and tracing. This is the project. EU has a regulation about batteries. So that means in EU, when you sell batteries in EU, you have to abide by these. You have to comply with these rules, including parts in the battery regarding carbon footprint. How much CO2 is emitted should be added and calculated to make clear and report. And you have to achieve certain criteria or less than this criteria. Otherwise, you cannot sell your batteries in Europe. So automobile industry started this initiative to address this role. And as you can see, at the blue part, this is the platform where we have data exchange platform. And upper part, we have the carbon footprint upstream company parts, and they give information to the lower downstream companies. And also, to what extent, how much volume of batteries they are manufacturing and at which timing they shipped. This kind of secret information about the company's business is hidden. They don't have to disclose that. And a lot of automobile companies are participating in this. And since May last year, they started to implement this initiative. So in the automobile industry, each company is bearing the costs for this initiative as well. And about the batteries, about carbon footprint. Already in Germany, they have an advanced case of Catena X, and they already have the operation of Catena X. So we are talking about exchanges between different industries, Catena X and the battery traceability platform. So technically, we have this interoperability for data exchange. We have confirmed this already. In March 2025, they announced the completion of a proof of concept for interoperability between the two data spaces. Also, as I mentioned before, in the automobile industry right now, well, they are using batteries for the success, and they are expanding the use cases from batteries. So not only batteries, but also all the parts for cars. And also customers use them, and customer recycle those products. And for every part, they calculate carbon footprint. And they have the platform already started to be developed. And after 2027, they are expecting to start operation. And this is a different industry, chemical and circular management platform. This is about mainly plastics, CMP, in each country, which chemicals are included in what. They have very stringent controls. Even if they are not under control, well, major countries have rules for reportings as well, and it should be updated. And that kind of information, of course, starting from resin, plastics, and processes, and how much chemicals were included should be disclosed to the downstream industries. So we are using this blockchain to be reflected on this data platform. It's already in development. Not only chemical industry, a lot of different industries, and 70 companies already are participating in this approach. And at the end of this year or March next year, they are going to have a major demonstration. And next year, in the fall, they are going to start implementing this. And this is a different industry, power industry, transmission operators and distribution operators. They have information that's given to retailers to provide different services. For example, if an elderly person is not using power at all, well, they can monitor that kind of situation to help this elderly. So this is Ouranos ecosystem project. So we would like to accumulate the use cases for more data exchange, and we would like to disseminate ideas about success stories and case studies. So METI is involved in this project, and also we are involved in certification system that started in May this year. So to the left, you can see the service already started, and on the right side, we have this proof of concept, and we started certification processes for those processes, and we already have 3 challenge projects, and we are recruiting different projects, and there are so many applicants already. We are not only waiting for recruitment and also applicants. We'd like to be serious about the use cases. Data collaboration is very important. So in June this year, Digital Agency and Japan Business Federation cooperated to establish Japan Digital Ecosystem Partnership. So this is a private-public partnership to make use cases. So we are very serious. The government and the private companies are collaborating together. And also we have technical initiatives as well. ITSS in Europe already started. They are more advanced, but we are catching up. We disclose architecture models, and you can see here, this is the concept. Well, the principle of Europe is to the left, data storage and distributed service model. And we have a lot of small-sized companies in Japan, and they have their own storage of data. However, it's a burden for them. In that case, they can use cloud computing as well. So we are thinking about hybrid service ecosystem for storage of data using cloud or on-premise. So this is an architectural reference model. This is already disclosed. So Europe is more advanced, so you might know this. So here is the reference architecture model. And when we have this kind of system, what should be the consideration for the design? And that is described in this white paper. This should enable system development for many people. And as our Mrs. Suga mentioned at the beginning, last week there was a major announcement at CTEC. So we have these Ouranos data spaces, ODS RAM reference architecture space. But as for the technical spec, RRI is so much interested, and also GSA in Japan is very interested as well. However, you might get this information or impression that every one of them is separately doing something different, but we integrated all of our approaches to make open data spaces. We changed the name, Open Data Spaces Reference Architecture Model. So all the relevant stakeholders consolidated our efforts. This is an integrated approach. Last but not least, of course, we are focusing on making use cases and also technical specs as well. And of course, as mentioned by the Deputy Director, the supply chain of manufacturing industry is global, of course. So global cooperation is very important. And we are really focusing on that. And together with EU, as I mentioned before, we have this interoperability project, and we would like to deepen the collaboration, and also intergovernmental approaches are going on as well. This is the direction, and we already agreed on the direction. And going forward, we are going to be more concrete what we are going to collaborate on. We have been discussing already. So internationally, data collaboration is going to expand. Thank you very much.
Ikai様、ありがとうございました。
Thank you, Mr. Ikai. Now, the next speaker is Mr. Thomas Hahn, a member of Manufacturing X and a fellow of Siemens AG. He will speak about scaling industrial data ecosystems and industrial AI, a global collaborative approach. So, Mr. Hahn, please.
So, and the clicker is here. Perfect, I found it. Okay, many thanks, and a real pleasure to be here, to present here a little bit about what we have done in the past. Also reflecting a little bit what is coming up. You mentioned just before the European-Japanese topic. I will also highlight some topics where we are working on concrete project proposal together. That's for me important. And to speak a little bit about data, open data spaces initiatives, AI, or to be precise, industrial grade AI. So this is a little bit what I'm touching. And as said before, my name is Thomas Hahn. I'm speaking today on behalf of the Plattform Industrie 4.0. Happy Markus has shown before as a roadmap about Industrie 4.0 initiative, highlighting the cooperation. I'm one of the person which I'm thinking just from the beginning was involved inside this journey. He mentioned also a lot of initiatives which were, let's set it up out of this, or integrated, or a relationship built up. And I think Shinji Oda, for example, where we're both joining the OPC Foundation board as a chairman, Shinji and myself as one of the vice presidents. Also you're seeing here also on the international level, we have a lot of collaborations which we're driving together, let's say, also with impact, because, you know, I learned from you have always the public and the private side. I'm coming from the private side, fellow at Siemens, and you can imagine the impact on business is super relevant, or international business is super relevant for us. But let's start with the first slide. A lot was said before. We have, as we all know, geopolitical challenges. Let's face it in this way. Also, it was mentioned from Tagawa-san in his speech at the beginning about disruption on different levels and so on. But nevertheless, let's say business is global. Supply chain, also like Markus has said, are global. We have, like Mrs. Suga said, cross industry, some kind of topics. There was from the Ouranos presentation also some kind of showcases about battery energy, and of course also the cross topic between the different verticals. I wanted to mention two. You can go to chemical and other automotive. You can drill down to different trends, but it's important to look what is needed, what are the interoperability aspects. And also happy to hear about the open data space initiative, what you're doing, how we can collaborating in this issue, because it's necessary that we have, besides the challenges, which we have globally looking, how we can interoperate between the different verticals and between the different regions of the world, respecting that infrastructures, regulations to fulfill. There was mentioned the digital product passport, for example, in the beginning from Europe and others. And of course, speaking again from the private side, for us is very interesting, and that's the reason is to have interoperable standards to get it done globally and across the different verticals. Only to touch two examples. The battery was mentioned. I will show later also one of use cases where the before mentioned initiatives are involved inside. When you're looking at a battery, you have the material, you have the producing of the cell, you have the producing of the battery, you have the recycling of the battery, thinking about the dependency, about rare earths. And when you can handle this in a more effective and efficient manner with data, with AI, then of course you can immediately create an impact, because when you do this successfully, above 90% of the battery can recycle, which of course is a topic. Or only to touching a little bit as a topic about the cross vertical issue when you're thinking about a manufacturing site, which may be needing a lot of energy, and you can optimize this in interoperability to an energy data space for the production and for the distribution of the energy. Then you can immediately imagine, then you can make something more efficient, more effective. And again, I use the word, speaking from the private side, for production, not to forget also we can do something for our society. Because look at the example with a battery, then we're saving also our environment when we make this in an adequate way. Not to touch the CO2 optimization topic which we mentioned before. As you see here, you have between regions, between verticals, between the horizontal and vertical, some kind of needs to exchange data, some needs to build up, and this cloudy topic at the top should be somehow reflected in data ecosystem about this. We have also to speak here about setting up, besides the interoperability, also the infrastructure from edge to cloud, from cloud to edge, how we're handling this depending what the different verticals are needed. And you can imagine that not a company, not a region can make it alone. You can imagine that not a research institute or somebody alone can do this. We have to collaborate. We have to collaborate in a global perspective, and we have to look for also how we can achieve the targets together. maybe I'm using the word together too much, but it's quite important in an open way, respecting the needs from the regions and from the verticals in doing this. And therefore, I'm quite happy, and I expect you will see this slide or a comparable slides more often during the day. But I'm really happy and excited about our 10 years collaboration. You see in the afternoon presentations about what we have done about interoperability, about trustworthiness, about business model, and about readiness for data ecosystem, because in our both sides we have a high dependency on small and medium-sized enterprises. It's not the big companies which covering most of our economy. It's a lot also for the covered from small and medium-sized enterprises, but nevertheless, that's which we have to address together. Therefore, you know, we have done a lot, but looking to the right side of my slide, we have to look what is coming up to now. What are the next topics what we achieve? One is, you know, all this interface between humans, AI, robotics, human robotic system, and you can add the topics which you have to touch. This is one topic why we are looking to achieve this, and this would be the next wave what we can do together in our cooperation between Japan and in Industrie 4.0. The next topic, it was shown also before, I think it was in the Ouranos presentation about federated data spaces, how we can set it up, how we can also, and it was also highlighted in one of the previous speeches about, because you know with data there's a link to values, and you know with values you want to keep the data also in your hands or not. That's the reason why I like also the term free flow of data with trust. I think this was DFFT, data free flow with trust, vice versa. But with this trust, because you know this is also super relevant also from company perspective, that you take data change and seamless, secure, interoperable. I think was mentioned a lot before, and also as said before, and forecasting what is the next steps, what we have to do. So this is, let's say, the perspective what we are jointly doing together as Japan and Germany with the respective initiatives, but we make it also on the global scale. Markus has mentioned this before. We set up together an international manufacturing cooperation council. Again, here you can imagine we were speaking about what are the needs, respecting what is needed, building together some kind of solutions for us, for our society, and looking also what are the interoperability aspects and driving this or bringing this together in standardization. That we're setting here up, and you know we have here from the West, I see Professor Ragu here in the room. We have later also a discussion about with manufacturing USA, cooperation Canada, with several countries in Europe, and with Asia, and especially with you. And not to forget and not to mention, and you see this 2 years ago, you see this little picture on the bottom line, second from the left. We set it up, this cooperation here in Japan, which was really a great pleasure for me and to set it up in this way. But because, you know, we have to look what is needed, what we can do, building on super successful bilateral cooperations, but looking also outside in a global scale. And one example, and that we are not only writing papers which are important, super important, that we are also not only influencing standards in the ISC, where we are going together regarding data spaces or manufacturing export concepts, or the concepts which are developed here in Japan, in the world, but we have also to look how we can achieve this in a global topic. And I'm also happy that I'm I'm always describing me as a spokesperson somehow for the International Manufacturing X Council to setting up. And several other countries are at the moment knocking on the door. Last week I have discussed with South America, with India, and all this we have to drive forward, thinking about how we are setting the international cooperation and interoperability. Following my first slide, what are the needs, cross region, cross vertical, let's say, how we can put it forward together globally. And as said before, we are not doing this so to say, in an only paperwork style, but we have also concrete use cases. One was indirectly mentioned from the presentation from Ouranos, and this is only the topic which I want to touch. This is a battery passport. I think we have later also some kind of deep dive sessions where we are collecting, and you see the flags of the different region countries involved inside, where we are collecting data with architectures. The Ouranos reference architecture was mentioned. Like Markus has said, the asset administration cell. We are using OPC-UA because we have also to connect to the shop floor, also with standards like the Markus mentioned the Tractus, EDC, the Eclipse database connectivity, also how we bring this. But nevertheless, to bring this in the picture together, and this is one vertical, but also for other verticals, chemical was mentioned, but also machine tool building industry and so on. We are bringing this jointly together and make some kind of proof points. The first proof point was this year at the Hanover Fair. The next will be in November, in 3-4 weeks to go at the SPS Fair, and then we have for sure on the booth, like Markus mentioned, also the next nice showcase or proof of concept at the Hanover Fair next year. All this is needed, and only to judge this very closely, to have AI, because we have also to get the value out of this data ecosystem, or to be precise, industrial grade AI. You see here on the left side, some kind when you're speaking about AI, you need the data, obvious, the data ecosystem, like mentioned before. You need infrastructure, edge cloud, but also HPC system to calculate huge foundation models, and you have the foundation models to build on top then application like a robots application, or what was shown here, some kind of copilots covering for manufacturing industry, for example, different life cycles from operation, engineering, and maintenance of a plant. But, and this is a topic which I want to highlight, we have some kind, in the middle, some kind of industry-specific requirements, resilience of the system. Hallucination, in a factory is nearly a no-go. We have to look how we can do this. We have also to speak about explainability, because where the data are used and which is the result out of this. We have to make it accessible and to have to create impact. So this is in a nutshell a little bit to give you an overview about what we are driving together, bilateral and also a global topic. And many thanks. A real pleasure to have this journey together with you the last years and also in the next years. Many thanks.
Thank you very much. We now would like to move on to the last presentation of this session. RRI Working Group 1 co-chair and the senior strategist of Hitachi, Irie-san, is going to make a presentation. The title is Initiatives Toward Industrial Data Spaces Era in Japan. Irie-san, the floor is yours. Thank you very much for your kind introduction. I am Irie from Hitachi Limited, and I'm also the co-chair of Working Group 1. Today I'm going to talk about initiatives toward industrial data spaces era in Japan. In the last several years, in the industrial data spaces, Here is the developments and trends in Japan. This is quite similar to what Ikai-san presented earlier, but please bear with me. You can see what's happening around Japan, and also Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry, Digital Agency, and IPA in the middle, and then Keidanren, followed by RRI at the bottom, especially Working Group 1 and AG4. In 2023, Action Group 4 was created within Working Group 1, RRI, and we started to investigate it into the use cases. In the RRI International Symposium last year, we presented the progress made by AG4. And based on this, Keidanren has made a recommendation on initiatives toward industrial data spaces era in Japan, which was announced in October 2024. And I think it was a week before the International Symposium of RRI last year. And based on this recommendation, here are the new developments that have been seen in Japan. The first is on the right-hand side. In Keidanren organization, they recognize that the public and private sectors had to work together, so the digital ecosystem partnership was established for that reason. And another point is that it has also contributed to the developments of Japan nationwide. Within Japan, the public sector and semi-public sector have to use data more effectively. So in 2023, the Digital Administrative and Financial Reform Council was established. And based on the first recommendation by Keidanren, they have also started discussing how to utilize data within all the industries. Along with that, Data Utilization System Council was also established. And then in the second half of 2023 and 2024, many developments have also occurred. For example, reference architecture model Ouranos ecosystem was also announced by the ministry, and trust study group was also established within the ministry to talk about how we deem trust foundation. So that's what happened in FY24, and currently in FY25, this fiscal year, the second recommendation by Keidanren was announced. And that has led to Japan Digital Ecosystem Partnership establishment. It was launched in June this year. This is something that I shared last year as well, but this is the first recommendation or proposal by Keidanren. It says that the trust foundation is important, data space is there, and many corporations should participate into this space. We need to think about data sovereignty and create various use cases, and in the end, we need to materialize Society 5.0. That is what's proposed here. And not only in Japan, but we need to collaborate with Europe and also Asia and other countries in terms of data spaces. So this is the macro proposal. And based on this proposal, how can we take action in reality? That's what Keidanren members discussed. The proposal was announced in May 2025. Both in Japanese and English. So if you're interested, please go to Keidanren website to take a look. And within this proposal, there are three major items that are actionable. First is developing trust framework. Trust concept is quite broad, but to begin with, in data space, those actors who are involved in the data space have to have the authenticity and presence and prove that. And we need the enabling infrastructure for that. And we also need to visualize the guarantee and level. the level of trust differs depending on the services or use cases. So that also needs to be discussed. So we need to organize the definition of trust service so that we can improve the technology as well as procedures. Next is the international interoperability in data space based on trust. And this cannot be achieved only by private sector actors, so we need to have collaboration between government entities. And next one is use case creation. Data space is almost like a highway road. So even if you have the road, if you don't have the vehicles, then the road does not mean anything. So we need the vehicles to drive on the road in order to create value. And the industry actors have to actively be involved to create use cases in that regard. But having said that, as the first step, we need to focus on the environmental area where there are high demands internationally as well as socially. So in that sense, the German members who are here today, as well as members from Asia and other countries with like-minded ideas, can work together. And next is the establishment of a public-private promotion. So far in RRI, we have already discussed this matter, but when it comes to use cases, in order for the database to work and in order to create use case, both public and private sectors have to work together hand in hand. So we have to promote that, and that is incorporated into this proposal. As Keidanren, so this proposal is made by Keidanren. So Keidanren says that Keidanren wants to work together with digital agency to create digital ecosystem partnership. So that was a proposal made in May this year. And based on this proposal, in the following month, in June 2025, the Digital Ecosystem Partnership was established. This is the organizational structure. At the top, we have steering committee, and then we have planning and steering committee below that. And in both, we have co-chairs from digital agency and Keidanren. And as committee members, we have members from Ministry of Internal Affairs and Communication, Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry, and IPA, and from private sector, DPFJ, Digital Policy Forum, and DSA, Data Society Promotion Association, and the JDTF, and RRI are participating. And within the planning and the steering committee, they are coordinating in general to understand what actions we should take. They are now setting up various threads to take action going forward. And working groups are yet to be established, but in each of these threads, the thematic working groups will be launched. Last week at CTEC, at the reception, Minister Taira also talked about Japan Digital Ecosystem Partnership, and also our chair as the vice co-chair, deputy co-chair of Keidanren, also touched upon this JDEP in his remark. So as you saw earlier, we have seen these developments, and this is what's been happening in Japan and outside of Japan. These are only some samples, but there have been many other activities undertaken as well. But the Digital Administrative Reformation Council has discussed how to accelerate data utilization in Japan. And that's indeed the focus of discussion today, the legal framework is also necessary there. And below that, we have the establishment of trust foundation. What's now being discussed is the GBIS ID. GBIS ID is an effective tool to identify individuals, and it's been used by companies to make use of public services by identifying themselves. So toward B2B, it's been used as G2C and G2B, but we want to expand the uses to B2B cases as well. And currently, feasibility study is ongoing. As for data space establishment, we have the federated and hybrid approach. And currently, the data collaboration framework or reference architecture has been established. And right now, we are promoting the creation of use cases in the environment field. And then on the right-hand side, you can see the JDEP led by digital agency. And based on all these actions, we want to implement this. And you can see that the momentum is picking up in Japan. Now, against these backdrops, what's happening with use cases? Ikai-san has already talked about this in detail, but last year, we discussed 4 groups of use cases at RRI last year. And from left top, you can see the ESG indicators in the supply chain. And left bottom, the product quality and software vulnerability related traceability. Right top, the logistics and green energy that are relevant with the company management, where the procurement is becoming difficult. So we need to share this. And the right bottom, arterial and venous collaboration to stimulate the circular economy, to create a new market. So these are the 4 use cases that we introduced last year, and especially in Japan, the left top, ESG information traceability use case is currently progressing the most in Japan. The situation in data space right now is seen from a different angle on this slide. So the 3 layers in the middle, they were talked about in the second proposal by Keidan-ren. We have application and use case layers, and then data linkage layer is in the middle, and at the bottom we have the trust layer. When we look at these 3 layers, as of FY 2024, on top of the Ouranos implementation, the automobile battery carbon calculation layer was placed on top. And then we also have the traceability of car battery system on top. And that's already in operation. And these red boxes are what has already been implemented. So it's based on JBIS ID at the bottom to identify the corporations. That's how. That's where the feasibility study started. And hybrid and federated and distributed hybrid system of Ouranos has been built. And on top, battery passport support and CMP, the chemical substance traceability system was placed. And going forward, we would also like to support CBAM applications. And then in the future, that will support DPP and circular economy effort. At the top, as you see, not only in the automobile industry, but the electricity and electronics industry can also utilize this layer in their industry-specific use cases. And in order to drive this, the country as a whole is currently putting in place enabling legal structure and a framework. In the public and private partnership, in the last several months, we have been discussing what we should do. And from the use case perspective, we want to now do two things. First is to build the interoperable data space internationally. This is an ongoing effort. When we look at this from the use case perspective, we have to understand how we can collaborate internationally, even on the application layer and also on the data linkage layer. And the trust concept and the foundation is where collaboration is needed as well. So there are things that we need to do end-to-end together. And at the top, we want to increase the number of participating companies, both large and medium and small. When we want to create use cases, then we have to have participation of small and medium enterprises as well. And to allow this, we need the public support, including technical support to companies' effort. And we want to think about these directions further from the use case perspective. In relation to number 2, data linkage, having said that, is quite difficult, and that's what we discussed last year at RRI. So the linkage of industrial data is difficult because the data provider doesn't have clear benefit. So the precedence or the level of priority goes down as a result. And the data management layer in the company infrastructure is lacking today. So right now, companies are actually manually picking data that they need to submit today. So we need to build an infrastructure where companies can easily share data. That mechanism is lacking. And by so doing, we need to provide incentives to the companies so that they will more willingly share data. That's all from me. Thank you very much.
入江様、ありがとうございました。
Thank you very much, Mr. Yuria. So from here, we'd like to have a panel discussion. So for panelists, could you please come forward? Mr. Hess, Mr. Ikai, Mr. Yuria, and Dr. Yuria, and Ms. Kania.
はい、それではですね、ここからパネルディスカッション。
Now we'd like to hold a panel discussion. So once again, thank you very much for the panelists. First, Mr. Hess from the BMW and Mr. Ikai from METI, and Iri-san from Hitachi Limited. And from the panel, the P, Ms. Kania, is here. Ms. Kania, could you please introduce yourself very briefly?
Everyone, and thank you very much for having the possibility to be on this panel here today. My name is Nadine Kanya, representing here our platform Industrie 4.0 activities and also our manufacturing executive activities. I'm working for SAP and I'm the head of Industry Business Unit Automotive and for our data ecosystem activities.
ありがとうございます。
Thank you very much. So now we'd like to start the panel discussion. In today's panel, we have 3 topics to discuss. And we have 45 minutes. Well, I checked with the secretariat. We are lagging behind, but we can take 45 minutes. So each topic, 15 minutes. So the first theme is here, as you can see here, about mutual understanding of current status of data collaboration in Germany and Japan. As was in all of your presentations between Japan and Germany, In this year, we had a big movement, and especially in Japan, we have more advanced implementation. Private-public partnership is going on, and in Germany as well, as was presented by Mr. Hess, you have a very long history. And also, a lot of industries are involved, AAS and Catena-X, and then I would like to explore more opportunities by deepening understanding. So first about Japan, I would like to receive opinions from Germany about what we are doing in Japan. So Mr. Hess, you listened to the presentation about Japanese side. So if you have any comments or advice, anything, please.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to comment on what we've heard during the last presentation. I very much appreciate the, let's say, clear structure that is now visible in how far and to what extent our Japanese colleagues have structured the dialogue, have structured the cooperation between the companies, the government, and associations. From my personal point of view, this is very much appreciated clarification who to address and who to talk to, not in terms of talking to the wrong person, but in terms of clear structure that gives good impetus to what is to be discussed next in technical terms as well as political terms, and that is extremely helpful. And I very much would love to say thank you for what we've seen and heard, because now we can go to the next chapter. From you asked for comments of the Japanese presentation or structure, and that helps us a lot. And I would love to invite you to do it the other way around, to work and act with the German structure to see where we can together find the common approach, be it on a company's level as well as the governmental level. Thank you.
ありがとうございます。
Thank you very much for the comment. So Ikai-san or Yuria-san, do you have any comments or response to Mr. Hess? Yes, what he said is all true. We don't have any technical background, so we talk about non-technical matters. We are not going into technical. That's our trend. So I really think that I have to catch up with the dialogues between engineers and technical people, but to enhance collaborations, those are some things we have to discuss. And also, we need to talk to companies so that they can include new technologies. We all talk about context, but we have to really catch up with the technical discussions as well. Thank you very much. Ms. Uria, Dr. Uria. Yes. About the comment of Mr. Hess, I really appreciate it in these years because we didn't know who we should talk to in the data space, about data space. We were frustrated. So at last, we have this partnership, public-private partnership, a program. And however, it's not really clear what we should discuss, what we should have this dialogue for. That is something I really think about. Thank you very much. Yes, ISO, IEC are very clear in terms of organizational structure. We do not have such clear structures yet, but now it's getting clearer, and that is good. Thank you very much. So the next point is Japanese comments on German presentations. So can I ask Mr. Ikai? Yes. Gaia X and Catena X, we have studied them a lot. And of course, they are more advanced and they have many prior initiatives in many different fields. And Germany is very strong in manufacturing. So we are very similar. We would like to focus on manufacturing so we can learn a lot more going forward as well. Thank you very much. Should I ask a question? Well, yes. So you have the government approach for data space, and especially Mr. Hess, you are so advanced in terms of data space. So I'd like to ask you, 10 years ago, when this idea of data space was initiated, I think this was really a visionary initiative, and it's been 10 years, maybe 20 years. And especially in the private sector, the US SaaS services started, and Google, AWS, Snowflake, they give authority to each company about information management for data partnership. So as data space, we should really promote it. So is this a different approach? And what do you think about this?
ありがとうございます。
Thank you. Hess-san, would you like to answer?
Thank you very much for the question. It gives me the opportunity to clarify something. Our focus, at least in the work between our platform Industrie 4.0 and the government, is not to replicate B2C, is not to have a second AWS or Google. That is not the aim. And if you allow me on a personal note, it would fail if we were to try to copy that. Our strength needs to be the strength in the future, and our strength is manufacturing. Now, manufacturing in the future is data-driven. Data is the baseline for everything that is in the future a possible market entry surplus for companies. So the task of the government was to bring all those parties involved to the table and try to flesh out how this could happen, because government has shortcomings in knowledge about technical impact. Companies are very keen to come together and act united on certain aspects. And in the dialogue between the government and the companies, you easily find out that some questions can only be found when we work on them collaboratively. And that is where all this started with the platform, with talking about common standards, the base level, the foundational model, and all these things involved, because in the end, short remark from the government, it's not us who's doing business, it's the companies, but they need to be able to do this because they need to know what in the future is mainly the framework they are working in, and that is part of our task as government to provide, and that they know seriously what will be future conditions to work in, and that is what we think works, but it works on a B2B level and not B2C. Thank you.
ありがとうございます。
Thank you. Kanya-san, would you like to add something?
At also the industry perspective, and therefore I can also say also only a big thank you that we have such a strong support also from the German government, because like what Mr. Hess already said, if we look on the challenges what we're currently facing in the industries, looking on manufacturing, looking on automotive, when we talk about resilience in supply chain, when we talk about all the upcoming sustainability regulations, for example, those are challenges that we cannot tackle alone and that we not can solve from one single company company, that is where we need to come together, where we need to collaborate in these kind of data ecosystems in order to overcome those. And also this like initial effort, what we also received there with support from the German government, this would haven't be something that we could do alone from one single company.
ありがとうございます。
Thank you. So we still have time, so I'd like to ask a question myself. So what is in the German presentation and what is not in Japanese presentation is AI. So AI plus data will be indispensable and essential in the future. So when it comes to AI, we often talk about B2C, the US or China. They have a lot of resources. They have generating positive results. So how can we collaborate in this area of AI? So I'd like to invite comments from both countries, Japan and Germany. Irie-san, would you like to start off?
AI
Yes, AI is now creating a lot of inflection points for us. If you look at data space, it's an enabler. You would add on values. And you have to think of AI to be added to this data space. So in terms of future direction, how we are going to build AI in our data space, open data space, that will be the question we should ask. But when it comes to B2C, the data that is available on internet and data that is confined in manufacturing are completely different. Manufacturing data a lot of time is confidential, and what company has what sort of data, what is the meaning and significance of data, you don't know. The only company that has the data understand what kind of data that company has. So feeding that data into AI is not that easy. I know that is the overall direction that we should pursue, but there are a lot of other things that we need to solve before we implement AI. Kanya-san?
What we have seen also in the presentation of Thomas, like industrial AI for us is for sure the logical next step also in the development, right? Also when we looked over the past 10 years, we see like new topics coming across, which gives us even more benefits here on it. And what we are doing, for example, also in the manufacturing X use cases, like for example, also in Catena X, is for sure that we have a look in the specific use cases, where can we use AI and bring this on top? And then also, how can we even then increase also the business value, what we have out of this? For example, in the quality management use case for the automotive industry, we are combining the fleet data of the car, which comes from the OEM, together with the production data. And then the tier one supplier has the possibility to analyze those both kinds of data and do then even much better forecasts, for example, to see, okay, is there a possible defect? Where could it be? So here we see huge benefits where we can use AI already today in order to generate much more business values.
ありがとうございます。まだまだ
Thank you so much. I think we can keep talking about AI, but I think in the interest of time, I'd like to move on to the next theme. Next theme is interoperability. So we have members from Germany and Japan. We would like to focus on international interoperability. As Ikai-san said in his presentation, there has been a project between Japan and Thailand. Germany is working in the frame of EU. It is a central player. So when it comes to Germany and Japan, where can we collaborate better for interoperability? And it's not just manufacturing. Intersectoral interoperability should also be ensured. So these are several topics that I'd like us to discuss under this topic. So in order to ensure interoperability, what Japan expect from Germany, starting with Irie-san, please?
まあ
In my presentation, I said that international interoperability is necessary in order to drive use cases. Today, in Hess-san's presentation, we heard about foundation access system, 4 phases: influence, build, run, and scale. These are the 4 phases. And currently, in each of the countries and regions, I think the build phase has progressed well. And in some of the regions, I think some use cases have gone into run phase. So going forward, we need to think about how to go into the run phase internationally. The highly accurate or highly precise point of view is necessary when we think about when we identify what's going to be needed in the future. So that's the effort that's required today, be it in the trust area and also in the data space. We do have international standardization, but then when it comes to use cases, can we really materialize this between companies from the data point of view? In order to implement this end to end, we have to look at minor details in order to establish interoperability. And to drive this in Japan and in EU, we need to have a common goal and common sense of issues. Otherwise, private companies together cannot drive this. So we have to first define the common goals and then identify challenges and solve these challenges together. Thank you. Hess-san, do you have response to Irie-san's comment?
Yes, thank you very much. Common goals and interests is the starting point and the goal in itself. So if you talk about international interoperability, you first have to understand where's the common ground. That is, you can make things interoperable on a technical level, but even and in particular, then you have to know the standards, the handshake between two technical systems. But if you are in a hazy situation and you don't know exactly how those technical contact points can work together, there will be no solution. So the first is the common understanding of the goal, and then the common understanding of the technical way to get there. And I think, I'm not a technician in any respect, but from the governmental point of view, you have to facilitate that process. You have to be able to identify what needs to be brought together to serve the goal of achieving a technical solution that works in a different market. My solution in your market might work, but I have to know the framework conditions, legally, technically, standard-wise, but also what the customers really need, the customers in your market. And to this end, the conversation between the company from, for instance, Germany, doing business or willing to do business in Japan is the first and foremost goal: how can I strive and succeed in that market? And it's twofold. You have to understand the framework conditions for the market, and you have to understand where you can connect to the technical requirements there. And that is something we can facilitate from the government side, from the platform side, and then it works. And I think we've proven with this particular cooperation between RRI and the platform that it all starts with not talking in the terms of talk, but hard talk about what is needed to strive in the respective market. Thank you.
ありがとうございます。入江さん。
Thank you very much. So Irie-san, do you have a response to that? Yes, so how to facilitate this process is important. That process, it's important. That's what I realized once again. And the framework itself using this kind of forum and communication path, we have to create the framework together. That's going to be important. Thank you for your comment. Thank you. Ikai-san, do you have any comments on facilitating this process? Yes, as everyone mentioned, we shouldn't just separate the technology front. The use cases and the reality, the practical reality and the technology, they have to be discussed in combination. And what we have done so far is Catena X and the storage battery, the technology parts. We have demonstrated that we can achieve the interoperability technologically. But then going forward, the Japanese companies will probably be developing batteries in EU. If that's the case, we have to support the procurement process as well. That's the practical needs that will be arising in the market. And then I think that when the practical needs are there, everyone will work toward technological solution in more earnest. Thank you. Then from German point of view, we'd like to hear what you expect from Japan on interoperability. Kanya-san, do you have a comment? Hi.
A little bit here, again, the industry perspective. I think international interoperability is key for us if we want to overcome the supply chain bottlenecks, what we have. I think it's clear that supply chains either don't end in Germany nor in Europe or just in Japan. Therefore, we really have to think international and global here. I think we did already a great job, and what we have done also in the POC, what we have done together with Ouranos and Catena X, that we showed on the one side, technically it's working out, right? We have shown it based on the digital product passport that we can solve it from a technical point of view. And here I would like to underline what you also said. I think it's key then also here that we come in this run and scale phase, right? That we also bring it into the adoption, into the usage, bringing together like German and Japanese companies, not only in a POC, but in an operation phase. And also maybe add this also for further use cases. We started now with the digital product passport, what is great, but I mean, we have a lot of other use cases also here where we would love to expand also this principle. I mean, what we have done in Manufacturing X is also what we have described now, our MXport concept, where we have defined, okay, what is needed for data providers and data users to participate in these kind of data ecosystems, which I think we would love to also map this with your white paper to see, okay, where do we have similarities from a technical point of view to bring it then also to other use cases.
ありがとうございます。
Thank you very much. So for this comment, Mr. Ikai, do you have any other comments? Yes. So internationalization was discussed, and also beyond the industries. That is important. Before go beyond, well, in Germany, there is a great advancement about how to make use cases. You know, we have to increase the number of use cases in Japan as well, our industry, and also we'd like to connect to the German industries as well. This is an imminent effort we need. Dr. Iria? Yes. As was in the comment before, one of the use cases is DPP, maybe. This is a very big target, I believe. And in the domestic use cases, I think that's the direction going forward as well. So to implement that, as Mr. Ikai says, that supply chain is global right now. And in concrete, which companies should be collaborating with which company? If we can make it clear, we can have deeper discussions, and that should be the goal. Yes, thank you very much. This interoperability, when we think about interoperability, well, there was this presentation by Mr. Hahn, business is international. That is really true. Hitachi is a global company. It's not a domestic company. And SAP is not a German company. It's a global company. For example, ABB robot team became a SoftBank group, and Hitachi group includes power distribution. So from the global company's perspective, when you look at data space and interoperability, what's the ideal situation for your companies? Irie-san, please. So as a member of Hitachi Limited, I'd like to talk about this. So in our company right now, per region, we have independent management of the business. For example, we have power transformation business. We have that in Japan, but Europe is the main. So it's European-driven business for Hitachi. So to connect to the data space in Europe, what we should do and what we should do in Japan, if they are different as a company, we don't know how to govern data. Data governance should be in confusion if they are separate. So in that sense, we want standardization that should be easier for our global business. Every regulation and every law cannot be globally common, but still, to some extent, we would like to have something common for business management that is ideal for a global company. Thank you very much. Well, Ms. Kania?
It is from a business application provider point of view, right? And I think either your company, or is it for SAP, or is it for Siemens, or whatever, I think it's really crucial that we have a common standard and a common base to enable then also our customers that they are data sharing ready. So that is what we did also with our data ecosystem strategy within SAP, for example. We have our SAP integration suite where we have added then like the EDC, for example, to make all our customers who want to share data in data ecosystems to make them data ecosystem ready. And I think that's crucial, and I think that it is for all the business applications provider. It should not be a big effort, right? We should enable our customers, especially also if we talk about small and medium enterprise companies, to keep the entry barriers really low in participating in data ecosystems. And therefore, again, it's crucial that we building on same or similar standards in order to ensure this.
ありがとうございます。少しこうじゃあ。
Yes, thank you very much. So what about the government comment, Meti? Well, I really agree with you. In that sense, OES RAM, Open Data Space, reference architecture model, I explained many times. We would like it to be a global standard. That is something we are aiming for as well. So we really would like to make it easier for everyone to use. So ODS RAM for international standard, and also we are working on open source software so that everyone can use it. And I really hope that they are going to be a platform for many people. Thank you very much. What about Mr. Hess?
Yeah, thank you very much. Little to add, but I think when companies' representatives ask for the same instruments to make use of, then my initial remarks of facilitating such a process is the proof of concept. I mean, when the companies share the same view in demanding the action from the political sphere in the same way, then we have a situation that we, from the government point of view, think is an ideal starting point for a common approach to make the best use of international standards and cooperation. And therefore, I think the proof is there that we have first to get to an agreement, a common vision of a goal, and then we look for the best suited instruments to get there. And again, when companies from both sides, Japanese, German, think that some particular instruments are the best to use to get to that goal, we have a good situation. Thank you.
ありがとうございます。それではですね。
Thank you very much. We are running out of time, so let's go to the third topic. The third topic is about digital ecosystem. Toward the implementation of a digital ecosystem, well, we were talking about data ecosystem as an enabler first. So how are we going to enable it? And that is the discussion here. Technical discussions and public-private cooperation and participation by global companies, enterprises, SMEs will have to increase use cases by having more participations, as was in the presentation. Resilience and sustainability are not the only thing. Competitiveness is very important. How data space can contribute to that. That is very important to increase the participants.
と思うんですけれども、ここ
So toward the implementation of digital ecosystem, in order to increase more participants, to generate more values, what should we be doing going forward? So that will be the questions to the panel. Ikai-san, please, would you like to start? For value creation in the manufacturing industry, you said that instead of sustainability or resilience, but what Japanese government is doing in the manufacturing space, there are two major X's. GX is one, that is sustainability. For GX, as you know, emissions trade will take effect. And companies that do emit a certain amount of GHG, they have to comply with this. So target companies will be, a majority of them will be manufacturers, steel makers, factories, chemical manufacturers, and so forth. And they will have to trade emission rights credit. To do this, obviously they have to reduce their own emissions, and obviously they have to measure scope 3 emission, considering how regulations are becoming severer and severer in the future. To follow this trend, obviously they are pressured to invest in ESGs. So they have to clarify the carbon footprint in supply chain as well. Because all of these efforts will eventually raise their corporate value. So that's a large effort throughout the efforts. Steel companies are working on green steel, utilizing green hydrogen to produce steel products. And they are working on this. They are trying to clarify emissions in supply chain as well. So that is one big use case for data space. The second X, as we discussed in theme number 1, DX, digital transformation. As was already mentioned by some other speakers, since we are talking about AI, LLM, which is based on public information, manufacturing factories, their know-how, their information are not public information. Therefore, they are not using currently available LLMs. Obviously, the publicly available LLMs are not suitable for manufacturing. And for Japan and Germany, manufacturing industries are extremely important. So how can we capture data from manufacturing, production data, manufacturing data, and create specific AI for manufacturing? That is something what the government is looking at, and how data space can be utilized for creating that industry AI. So that is a question that we need to work on going forward. Thank you. Kanya-san, please.
we also have to see here the different levels, what you just mentioned. Like for the sustainability topics, we see it mainly driven it's by the government, by regulations coming up. We had already the example about digital product passports, like for example in Europe, we have the European battery passport, which will be in place starting February 2027, where you need to report around 100 data points, where roughly 80% of this data is along the supply chain, where you have to request it. For example, also the product carbon footprint. I think these are definitely initiatives which drive the adoption also for the data ecosystems, and where we need data ecosystems in order to fulfill these kind of regulations. And there are similar regulations in the US, there are similar regulations what you have here and also in China too, which have to be fulfilled. Then, but for sure we see also a big push coming from the industry directly. And there I think we have to separate also the different levels. For sure, for example, in Catena X, we see a big push also coming currently directly from the OEMs. So there are OEMs that they have defined now Catena XS standard for data exchange for all their businesses and their use cases they are active. So for sure here also the suppliers have a big interest to fulfill these data standards in order to be listed also for the futures. But I think what's the most important one and what's the crucial ones are, and we talked a little bit about this already, it's really what are the real benefits out of the use cases? Where can companies have savings, cost savings, efficiency? And I think that is the key. We have to show these benefits out of the different use cases in the data ecosystems to drive the adoption. And we have to show them, we have to talk about it and do it. And what I mentioned before, like for example, in this quality management use case, what we have as a real example, I mean, quality issues are always a big issue for all in participating there, right? And for example, what we came across is one real example. Like there was for one OEM and also an automotive example, there was the camera system of the car was affected. They did then the analysis. It was 1.4 million cars where this camera system was built in. Then based on our algorithms and what we have defined in the quality management use case, we did the analysis of it, and we came across that from these 1.2 million cars, only 14 cars the camera system was built in. So just think about the costs if you have to recall 1.2 million cars, bring it back to the garage in order to fix it, or only 14. So here you also have a lot of huge savings into the different use cases. And I think we have to work on that we make these benefits much more clearer for all the participating companies in the data ecosystems.
ありがとうございます。
Thank you. It's a very good example, very easy to understand. Thank you. Mr. Hess, please.
The perfect example illustrates another thing, that being part of an ecosystem takes away the burden to find a solution from scratch. So when you are part of an ecosystem, you can rely on a foundation that is serving everyone, pre-competitive, without any attachment to your concrete business. But then, when it comes to competition, you can come up with swift solutions for problems that occur that were solved in former times totally differently, and would have ended up in that respective example in calling more than 1 million cars to the dealers or the technical support. The role of the government in this is to facilitate the understanding that being part of an ecosystem is a good thing, although upfront there are more questions than answers. But if you bring companies, government and academia together and work on the pre-competitive part of it, when it comes to a technological challenge, the answer will be there much more swiftly. And that is what an ecosystem serves for, and which becomes a value in itself. Thank you.
ありがとうございます。では最後、入江さん。
Thank you very much. Irie-san, do you have a comment? Yes. How can we use data space to grow companies and grow market further is the focus point of discussion in the future. To comply with different regulations, cost needs to be reduced. That's one area that the use case is being driven. And as Mr. Hess said, how can we increase the number of participating companies will be an important point of view. And by increasing the number of companies, we can create the network effect. And then if we materialize these ideas in data space, and then we can also allow the growth of companies and the market, creating a competitive world. So how can we expand and scale this is the important point of view today. But it's vice versa. To achieve that, we also have to showcase attractive use cases. One of the examples may be AI. We have to demonstrate that to companies so that companies will be more eager to be involved. And so both Japan and Germany need to share best practices in this regard as well. Yes, thank you very much for that. Then we'd like to take a few moments for the Q&A session. First, from the remote participant, we have a question from the YouTube viewer, so I'd like to introduce this. So each company, when they are to operate EDC, the cost burden is quite significant for SMEs. The first person is touching upon Ouranos ecosystem, and the second person is asking about German small and medium enterprises. So how are these companies tackling this challenge of cost burden when they are implementing EDC? Well, in my presentation, I already explained this, but Ouranos data space reference architecture model in Japan has been published, and also open data space reference architecture is the new one. But in here, the data is stored. The data doesn't have to be stored by individual companies. Data can be stored and managed centrally in cloud. So the companies can use either of them. It's a hybrid approach. We understand that the small and medium enterprises would have a hard time operating such systems. So indeed, the questioner has a valid point. Mr. Hess or Kanye-san, the small and medium enterprises in Germany,
this from the industry point of view here, and for definitely what we said, SMEs, we have a big focus also for our data ecosystems to cover their needs. That's definitely crucial if we talk about all the X initiatives where we are focusing on. So we see definitely around 70% of the participants in the data ecosystems are SMEs, and therefore we need specific solutions for them. And that is why we are looking also in our data ecosystems and X initiatives to keep the entry barriers for SMEs quite low, where we have also a specific offerings from different EDC providers and business application providers, special for SMEs, for the specific use cases, for the EDC, which is on a lower entry barrier cost perspective, I can say. I think you always have to see, okay, what are the needs of the SMEs, but we try to keep this here really low in participating in the data ecosystems.
ありがとうございます。
Thank you very much. Then we now would like to open the floor for Q&A. Maybe we can take one or two questions from the floor. Any questions?
Yes, thank you. Alexander Bruce, my name, VDW, German Machine Tool Builders Association. I wanted to come back to the very last aspect, the SMEs. And as we are dealing with a whole lot of government money that goes into these activities, so I'm also, let's say, one of the heads behind the UMATI initiative for open standards in data exchange for machinery, which uses OPC-UA. And our belief is everything we do here needs to be open, independent, and cost-free, open source. So my question is to that, of course, having an industry representative of a very well-known software company here, services have a cost. But there should be a chance to build the services or use the services by yourself without cost for everything which is standardized. What are the concepts here, both for the RRI initiative and also for the X initiatives, to ensure that everything that is developed with a whole lot of government money is in the end free to use if it's not a commercial service?
Yeah, maybe add this here from the X initiatives, and I think there we have Catena X, which is the one which is live and where everything is already available, right? There we have the kits also published, where you have the open source code and where everybody is free also to use it and to implement it then there directly in the companies.
Thank you for that. Maybe another question, if there's any question from the floor. I'm Sakaino from IDSA. My question is the following. What will be the priority issue that we will have to work on? And how can we develop human resources to move that forward? As Mr. Hess said, the international landscape is changing dramatically, and what we have to work on is probably changing along with that. The international power balance is changing, technology is advancing, conflicts are increasing, cyber attacks are becoming severe and severe, and smart manufacturing is being implemented, and data space operation has started. Against these backdrops, what are the priority challenges and goals and themes that Japan and Germany should work on together? And to make progress there, how should corporations and the government solicit people and develop human resources? I'd like to hear from the German representatives, and if you have any advice to the Japanese players, we'd like to hear your views and advices. Thank you. Mr. Hess, do you have anything?
Thank you very much for that question. I think it's a very crucial one, because to my understanding, we have two major challenges now to deal with at the same time. That is a skilled workforce and a resilient network. The resilience is to be understood in the way that you have to shield your premises, you have to shield your data processing, your data storage, you have to be aware of geopolitical changes which end up in, let's say, some cyber problems. That is the second part. But the first part is, at least to my understanding, of equal importance. That is, when you have a lot of skilled workforce, you have a lot of potential to tap. The smaller the skilled ones, the fewer the answers that are viable. So the more people are involved and skillfully involved in tackling those problems, the better for, in the end, the ecosystem you are part of. And I would personally suggest to work on those two areas within companies, because the product you know yourself, the market you are familiar with, the framework you're working in is more or less known, although the parameters that impact the framework are changing. But if you don't have skilled people to tackle the problems that occur, that is something the government cannot do for you. We can support the skilling up. And if you have a problem in shielding your products or your processes, then again, what the government can do is supporting industry to shield themselves. But we cannot shield you individually. Collectively might work. So those two aspects, to my understanding, are of importance. Thank you.
ありがとうございます。
Yes, thank you very much. Well, we actually passed the time, so we would like to close session 1. Through the presentations and discussions, we can see the points for further collaborations and also how to collaborate further. The communication points are getting clear. So now we are going to the next phase. Not only us, but we are going to have more participants, including SMEs, so that we can have more advancement we can share next year. Thank you very much for your attention. Once again, thank you very much for the panelists.